everyone, welcome to ScreenGeeks. This is Dave.
This is Barry.
And this week we are honored, we are blessed, we are just thrilled and psyched to have a longtime friend of the show, to us personally and covering shows in the past, the co-director of the Mile High Horror Film Festival, Mr. Timothy Schultz. How are you, sir?
Yay, doing great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. We were talking, Barry and I were talking, we're going to be talking The Invisible Man this week. It's like, hey, the film fest is coming up like in a week or so. We should see if we can wrangle you into getting in. And we're very thrilled that that you made the time for us.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the invitation. I love what you guys are doing. And, it's always great to see you, of course. But yeah, the festival's coming up soon. So we're deep into it right now.
Yeah. So we're going to talk Invisible Man. We're going to actually kind of segue it into talking about like what we think about horror films and stuff we're missing out on. And then actually talk about the film fest coming up and how you can get involved and how you can watch it. So Barry, do you want to introduce the film a little bit?
Yes, this is the third film directed by Leigh Whannell. Leigh Whannell is a genre favorite. Of course, this is one of the writers who helped create the Saw franchise as well as the Insidious franchise. He made his film directorial debut a few years ago with the third Insidious film, which I love this franchise, but I don't know that the third film is really the best of the series or really even a promising directorial debut. He followed it up with the festival favorite Upgrade, and then this year he directed The Invisible Man. This stars, of course, Elizabeth Moss in this new rethink of the franchise favorite, although, of course, this is something so different than we expected. This was supposed to be, as many sci-fi and horror genre fans know, this was supposed to be an extension of the dark universe that they established over at Universal with Tom Cruise's The Mummy, which lasted exactly one movie. So the Elizabeth Moss, Invisible Man, just even when they announced it, I think everyone said, okay, we love her, but what is this going to be exactly? What is this? And you have a film that has a lot in common with Sleeping with the Enemy. You have a film that is very much an extension of how people are feeling and talking about the Me Too movement. And it's a film about the evil that men do. So Elizabeth Moss is a young woman who she is in a very extremely, hurtful doesn't seem to be the right word.
Abusive works.
Thank you. She's in an abusive relationship with this individual his name is Adrian. She escapes his clutches in the opening scene, a gripping, amazing sequence that opens the film. It's established, without spoiling it too much, though I suspect everyone who's watching this has probably seen the film, but she escapes Adrian's clutches. We learn later on that Adrian has died, that he has left everything in his impressive will to her. And yet, even after he is gone and dead, he still has a way of threatening her. And she's convinced that he is around, except no one can see him, rather. That's the setup for the film.
So let's go ahead and roll the trailer and we'll come back and talk about the movie for a little bit. It's a good time. Well, it's not good, but we'll be back.
What happened to him?
Adrian's dead.
Listen, you're getting your freedom back, okay?
He said that wherever I went, he would find me, walk right up to me, and I wouldn't be able to see him. Adrian is dead. He's not dead. He has figured out a way to be invisible.
So yeah, that's a really calm, relaxing movie, and I'm the person who saw it the most recently. I saw it this week, actually, and I'd heard a lot of good things. Like the guys over at Junk Food Cinema heaped a lot of praise on it. Barry, your comparison to Sleeping with the Enemy is spot on and perfect. That movie is so stinking tense. Like, it will not let go. Like, the way that this film uses tension is phenomenal. Like, and the use of negative space, I guess, is probably the best way to put it, where you got Elizabeth Moss sitting over here, and then all the rest of the space isn't being used at all. Like, he's there. What's he doing? What's happening? And nothing happens for like the first 5 or 6 times this happens. But just like, Whannell's really, he really kind of stretched his legs with this movie.
I agree. The thing I don't like about the film, and it's not the movie's fault at all, I hate that the trailer gives away that there is an invisible man. Because obviously from the way it was written, the way it's structured, clearly you're not supposed to know. Clearly you're supposed to spend the first 30 minutes wondering if it's all in her head or not. And Elizabeth Moss, who was a brilliant actress, most people know her from The Handmaid's Tale and other things. I mean, I'm a big fan of her work. She's terrific. And in this film, I think her performance is not simply stark raving mad. She's someone who is grasping to understand her situation. She's clinging to whatever defines sanity. And I think there's enough nuances in that performance that you really do kind of wonder, and you're supposed to kind of wonder. So I think I think the fact that this movie is sold as a horror film straight up kind of undermined it, because it is supposed to be surprising that there is an invisible man in this movie. Because as fantastic as the story is, it does try to be as grounded in maybe not science fiction reality, but emotional reality as much as possible. This idea of an individual who is just so happy to stalk someone, so happy to torture someone from a distance. I'll say this really quickly, then I'll turn it over to Timothy. The thing that I really love about the movie, there's a lot of things, but I find that what this movie has to, the reason it's so good, it's very contemporary, it's very right now. It's about how men, when they want to be controlling, when they want to be hurtful in this age of the internet, where they can do it anonymously, where they could do it from a distance, when they could basically make the other person seem like a crazy person and gaslight them, there is no greater power than being invisible. And I think the definition of being an invisible man is very broad in this film. And I think anybody who has been stalked, anybody who has been, shamed and bullied online, or anybody who's just been in a bad relationship will look to this film and go, yes, like I know what that's like. I know what it's like to question, what was I ever in the right? Was I ever in my right mind? I think this movie is actually better than Sleeping with the Enemy, even though it's I think a very similar structure, but I think it's a better film because the psychology of the villain is so unsettling, especially when, I guess the spoiler, we finally do meet this guy. And we can kind of see what the attraction is. But we also see like this guy is, he couldn't be more awful and rotten.
Yeah, Tim, so I know that since you're so plugged into the festival and the horror community, like I know when I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, this is a Blumhouse flick. It's Lee Winnell. This could be really interesting. Kind of like, I know you probably had a little advance notice on what this was going to be and stuff. What was the reception around the horror community that you're involved with?
Sure, yeah. We did an advanced screening before it was released to the general public, and the fans overwhelmingly seemed to really, really enjoy it. I personally really enjoyed it. I do agree with Barry, now that I think about it, about the trailer giving away that, and of course the title of the film. So,
yeah.
There's going to be an invisible man, right? So it would have been scarier if you had not known that. But I do also believe that, in a sense, there's nothing scarier than something or somebody that's watching you that you can't see, but is there. There's a sense of that's real terror, and it's been done effectively in many films, including this one, and I really personally really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think if I've ever seen any, I don't want to say criticisms, but people who may not like the film as much are like, well, this isn't like the Claude Rains movie, and you're right, it's not. The Claude Rains movie, I think, is a lot more playful in its creepiness. It's probably the best way to put it. But this has a unique enough take on it that it takes the core conceit and really, really has fun playing with it. I mean, it still is a sci-fi horror film. It's just really well done. I mean, knowing going into the movie and knowing that there is an invisible man, that scene when Elizabeth Moss is outside and she's looking for whatever this thing is, and you see that breath show up over her shoulder, I still got chills even knowing exactly what's going on, because it's like, I haven't seen this guy. Is he going to show up? And you're like, there he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a lot of behind the scenes things as well that were done very effectively to make it, seem like how the cinematography was intentionally trying to make the home feel as if it was a maze, and as if someone is there and she can't see them, and just the lighting. There's a lot of LED lighting within the set inside, and purposefully placed in specific areas to also help with the effect. But I think the writing was, and of course the acting was very well done as well.
Yeah, it feels a lot like the film. Like, I mean, we know Blumhouse films are notoriously low budget, and it seemed like they used that as a creative driver to be like, okay, how can we make our money go as far as we can, to the point where, like, when the breakfast burns, was that him or was it something else? Like, it's just so it gets back to, like, I think a lot of Hitchcock's older films are better than his later ones, just because he was constrained by budgetary and sensory things that he had to find interesting ways to work around, and what he came up with ended up being complete masterworks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this This year, I believe, is the 60th anniversary of Psycho.
Is it? Oh,
right around there, yeah. And
60,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. So there's a lot of buzz about that, but I'm definitely a Hitchcock fan. So
yeah. Very cool. So Barry, I mean, where do you see this in Lee Winnell's like filmography, like in his canon? I mean, Upgrade was what I say to all my superhero friends is it's the Venom movie we should have had, even though it's just a phenomenal piece of sci-fi as well. It's just about it's just
considering how much I despise Venom, I agree with you. It is the Venom movie I wish we had instead of what we got. No, I'm a big fan of The Invisible Man. I hope they stop there. I don't want a franchise. I think this is great as a standalone film. I know if I remember correctly, forgive me if I'm wrong, I probably should have looked it up beforehand. I believe when the Dark Universe was established and they were talking about Tom Cruise being, a figure in this universe, and that Russell Crowe was always going to play Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I believe what they had in mind was that Johnny Depp was going to play the Invisible Man, if I remember correctly.
Ooh.
And that I think Javier Bardem had been spoken to about doing the Wolfman. Like, they wanted, basically they want to do like a Satanic Avengers. Eventually, at some point, that's what they were going for. And I don't mean to poo-poo that, because obviously that would have been very interesting in some way. But I think The Mummy was a good indication that, and this movie is an excellent indication that horror really works when it's ground level, when it feels real. I don't mean to keep mentioning this movie. I feel like I mentioned at least like once a podcast, but like World War Z is a great example. I like that film. I enjoyed it. But it's not a great horror film, and it's a $100 million zombie movie. These movies have never worked when they have, a king's ransom as their budget. And I completely agree with you, Dave. I think the most effective moments in this movie are simple. And even when it does employ the special effects, it does it in a way that's not, the special effects don't take over. It's not one of these movies where the special effects are driving the story. It's the way it's supposed to be. The effects are used as a tool. I do think simplicity works in this film's favor in a really big way, because it's more of a psychological battle than it is really a physical battle.
Yeah, oddly, just coming to mind, like the movie I would probably most closely related to would probably be like Hard Candy, where it's just like this very performance-driven piece. Where like really the only two actors you see for the most part are going to be Elizabeth Moss and Aldous Hodge, who is really fun in this movie. I mean, coming from seeing him mostly in Leverage, like it's fun seeing him take on a different role and really kind of run with it.
Yes, and Oliver Cohen Jackson, I want to throw that name out. He is on Netflix as The Haunting of Hill House, and he's also in The Haunting of Bly Manor, which comes out next month. Big fan of this guy. He plays the Invisible Man. When he finally presents himself, I mean, it's pretty cool the way the movie uses him. You barely see him in the first scene. I'm not going to comment on whether that's really him in all the invisibility scenes, but he does have this extended sequence at the end of the movie. I love that sequence. I love the tension of it. I love the pacing of it. I think his performance is fantastic. It's interesting that this guy is right there in front of us, but because of the way he plays it, you're kind of leaning forward and going, what is with this guy? Is he who we think he is and who she thinks he is? This is a very well cast movie. This is one of these films that easily could have fallen apart with actors who either did too much or too little. I think it works. Walter Chow called this film a masterpiece. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I mean, I do love this film. I think it is an example of, for one thing, it's a rethink of a horror genre. I mean, this could have been another Hollow Man, and instead they made it simpler, but I think much more effective and even more universal in what it has to say.
Absolutely. I'm curious what you think about why do I keep, whenever I change the camera angle? Oh, well, it feels like the first half of the film is all tension all the time when you don't know what's happening with Adrian. And then it's kind of like once we know for sure that it's happening, the special effects kind of take over. I'm not sure, like I'm still processing it a little bit. I can see people either thinking that it kind of lets the foot off the gas a little bit and lets you catch your breath and enjoy the ride that is the end, or it kind of stumbles a little bit just in that it loses a lot of that tension. I'm kind of curious what you think about that.
I do think, because it's so much about a woman whose sanity is questioned to a point where, I mean, it almost feels like the film Shock Corridor, in a sense. Like this is this is the horror of just not being heard. This is the horror of no one believing you. This is the horror of knowing in your heart that you are right and everyone else is turning against you. So I think there's like there's that shock corridor quality. There's the Kafka quality. When it becomes true horror, because it was a moment that really made me catch my breath. And I remember being in the theater, seeing this moment. I didn't scream, but people around me were screaming. The dinner scene.
Yes.
The dinner with Cecilia, played by Moss, and the actress playing her sister. It's a simple moment. It's an outrageous moment. It was bold for the film to have that be the second act, inciting incident. But I love that they did that. I thought that was a fantastic, not only because it's such a striking image, just the indication that, like, my God, this guy has been like sitting next to him the whole time. And they didn't know.
I think the execution of that scene is something really to be admired too, because
pun intended.
Yeah. I'd feel bad, but I'm kind of proud of myself for unwittingly doing that. But the way that they pulled that off in the hands of a less capable filmmaker, I think it would have been drawn out more. It would have been played a lot more for the shock of the thing, as opposed to just understanding your audience and trusting in them to be just as freaked out as they should be in this thing happening so fast. You're like, wait, did that just happen? What the, like, it's a really smart move to do. And I think I don't want to spoil a movie because I really think people should watch it. The climax of the film, I thought was really smartly put together. Like, you think it's going to be one thing, it turns into something else, and then it turns into something even smarter. It's cold, it's calculating. It's just, I love, like, as much as I was like, I don't know how I feel about how when it shifts from we're not sure if she's going crazy, even though we know she's not, to full blown action movie, kind of third act showdown. I love how this movie ended. I think it just couldn't have ended possibly on a better grace note.
Yeah, I remember,
buddy.
Yeah, I remember being very impressed with the ending in the final act, and it was definitely not, for me at least, it wasn't where I thought it was going. So that's always nice if you can't predict something. So
absolutely. So I guess
I sincerely hope, even though the ending is somewhat open-ended, I hope no sequel, please, no sequel. It's great, you guys did it. Move on, something else. No sequel, please.
I could get behind that for sure. I think this is a good point to kind of segue into. I think 2020 was really shaping up before, in the before times. 2020 was shaping up to be a real landmark year for horror. Just, I mean, between this, Candyman, that motion, like the flannelgram trailer that came out, completely blew my mind, and it like makes my heart ache to know that I'm not seeing this movie for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, the new Candyman actually is coming out this October.
Oh, it is still. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, VOD. I mean, probably drive-ins and theaters that are open. I'm just assuming that. I don't know.
But Barry, we got a new release.
I do know it's coming out. Yeah.
Well, so, I think let me verify it. I'll pull it up. I think it just got pushed back to 2021. Actually, let me.
Oh, is that right? That.
Universal moves Candyman to 2021. Yeah.
That must have been recently.
Just came out. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
That's terrible.
Dang it, Barry.
I know, doggone, it's my fault. It was my idea. No, Nia DaCosta apparently made this wonderful movie, and the studio's big on it. The word of mouth has been building for this, the anticipation. The trailers look wonderful. It doesn't look like, it just doesn't look like a dumb, let's just do this again. Like it's to use the word respectfully, a rethink. But it's also a sequel. It's a proper sequel. They have actors from the original in there, so it's meant to be a continuation. I think this more so than Spiral. Spiral was the other one that was supposed to be a summer film too. Spiral, the continuation of the Saw series. However that would have turned out, but I think this was the one that looked like the prestige horror film, and I hate that we're not getting it. I hate that we're not getting any of these films.
It's really unfortunate. We our festival, the Mile High Horror Film Festival, was supposed to take place in May, so we were eyeing all these films that were supposed to come out around that time, and it's changed everything. And there are films that are, a lot of them are being pushed back to 2021. Some of them are just going straight to VOD. That's kind of, some of them are still trying to figure out what they're doing, but it's really, really interesting. And it's really changed the market. Not to mention that a lot of companies aren't filming. They're not in production right now. So it's very interesting time, but there still are a lot of films that haven't come out yet in the vault for some places, or that were supposed to come out now distributors and filmmakers are saying, okay, well, let's just, let's put it out on demand. And I think everything was sort of pivoting towards that anyway. And this is kind of giving it another push where people, they want content. You want to be able to see new content on VOD. And, if they can open up theaters tomorrow and it's safe, that's awesome. I hope that happens soon. But in the meantime, I'm embracing the VOD thing for now.
Yeah, it's kind of a kicker because, especially with Horror Noir coming out, that fantastic documentary on Shudder, like that seemed like it was just angling to be like the perfect segue to bring us Candyman. I was just like, oh, I can't wait to see this movie, and then, crap, that's kind of where we are. I mean, so Tim, as you've been programming for the festival, which we'll jump into here in a little bit. Actually, Barry, is there anything else you want to bring up for movies that you're missing out this year before we jump into the festival?
Well, I'm like a lot of horror fans. I mean, I love the Michael Myers movies. I do. I was looking forward to Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, which are now pushed back a whole year. So yeah, I'm a little broken up about that. There's other films like Antebellum. There's other movies that are interesting but yeah, of all things, it's Candyman and Michael Myers. Those are the ones I'm really mourning over because they look different. And I loved what David Gordon Green did with Halloween a couple of years ago. I really dug that movie. And I know it's a divisive topic for the longtime fans, but it was the only movie I saw twice that year. I really enjoyed it. So I was looking forward to, the fact that it's the same creative team, the same cast, basically. And that they did they shot it like Back to the Future too. They did Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So I got to wait till next Halloween to see that. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm annoyed about that. I'm annoyed about no Candyman too. So yeah,
fair enough. Yeah. So I'm curious, how has everything kind of wreaked havoc with all the programming that you've planned on doing for the Mile High Horror Film Festival coming up this year?
Well, to be completely honest, so we had, our festival is going to be happening in May. So we were wrapping our program in probably March, like right when all this stuff happened in the United States anyway. And almost every feature that we were going to play either is moved to 2021 or they're out now on VOD. So what we have done is we've had to go through and look at all kinds of new films that are coming out in this season. And we found some excellent films, but we lost a lot of the features because of COVID and the timing and, what do people want to do? Move it back or have it out now? So there's some excellent films that I've seen that I don't know if I can publicly speak about because we haven't publicly taken them, but they're coming out next year. So, we think, I don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic, but that's where they're scheduled tentatively right now. But we still have some really strong films we're playing this year.
Well, you've still got some guests lined up, right?
We do, yeah. We have quite a few that are going to be joining us virtually. The co-director, writer of the Blair Witch Project, Dan Myrick, who's been one of our biggest advocates for a long, long time, is joining us as a special guest of the feature film category. And Jeffrey Reddick, who is writer, creator of Final Destination series, who's also been an advocate for us for years, is coming back. He's going to do an interview with us. We have John Kassir, the voice Keezer of the voice actor from Tales from the Crypt. Yeah. So yeah, we're super excited for him to join us. Adam Green behind. I know you guys know who these people are, but I'm just explaining it to the fans that are watching. But he's behind the Hatchet series and a number of other productions. But he's going to be joining us for more than one film. So it's sort of like an Adam Green celebration with some of the talent involved in those productions. So we're very excited to be hosting him. And
Adam's
a number of other people.
Adam's just been kind of doing nonstop content from the Aeroscope studios ever since everything has started. Like between Movie Crypt and everything else, the man he's not slowed down at all. Yeah,
no, he seems to be keeping very busy. Absolutely, and he's a super nice guy, and we're so grateful to have him on board. And I don't know what I can I don't know. Is this
Don't
being
get in trouble.
edited, or is this?
We can edit some. Don't get yourself in trouble. Like I'm not looking for anyone to say anything. I mean, I know you're the co-director, so there's only so much trouble you can get in, but still, I don't want to put you in that position, man. I'm not going to do that.
All right. Well, I can say that we're very excited to have him back, and we're going to be doing some really fun things with him. We also there's a film called Alone. It's a new feature film that's going to be on VOD coming up very shortly. And the director of that, John Hyams, I believe his name is going to be joining us. But he's very reputable, and his film, it's sort of like a woman gets kidnapped, and she escapes from this, person that's after her. And I don't want to say too much without giving away any spoilers, but it's a very high quality, well done film that'll be on VOD for everyone to watch very shortly. But we're going to be doing a live Q&A with him, so we're super excited about that. So yeah, we have quite a few balls in the air right now, but we do have, we're going to be interviewing a lot of directors. We're doing a film called Fried Berry, which you might not have heard of quite yet, but you will, because it'll definitely be going on VOD at some point. But right now it's playing the festival circuit, and it is sort of it's like an alien abduction type of movie, and the acting, I think, is phenomenal, very well acted, and it played, I believe, Sitges and Fantasia this year, but regardless, it's a very, very good film that I'm super excited about. So we'll be interviewing the director and producer from that film. And most of the films we're showing are new, and they have not been released to the general public yet, which is one of the things about a film festival that I think is unique, is that you can see these films before anybody else. And so and we're also showing 12 shorts programs, and we'll be interviewing tons of filmmakers from all around the world that have made these films. So it'll be over 80 films. And it's the best of the best. And we look at what Sundance plays, what Tribeca, these other festivals that we respect. And it's not only just that, but we get tons of submissions, and we have a committee of people that looks through all of those, and then ultimately we decide what we're going to play. But there's some films that I'm super, super excited about. There's one even from, have you ever heard of the band Power Man 5000?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
So Spider One, the lead singer from that band, he directed a short film. I'm going to something about, what is the title? Something about rabbits. I need to look at the exact title, but anyway, he directed this short film. So we're going to be doing a Q&A with him as well. So we're excited about that.
Very cool. If I could, real quick, I want to do a little trip down memory lane with Barry, in that,
I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Oh no! I'm now wondering which one you're thinking of.
Well, you're going to mention that Adam Green is the writer-director of one of your favorite films at the Mile High Horror Festival, which is The Diary of Anne Frankenstein.
Well, I was going to get there, yes. I was more going to say, kind of highlighting the quality of content that Tim and the team have put together. Like, we attended and covered the first 2 years, and then we kind of pod faded after that, although we've recommended the festival to everyone we possibly can ever since then.
Yes.
But thank you.
But because there are films off the beaten path. Some of our favorite films have come from that festival, and yes, like the thing I appreciate, even if not all the movies are for me, is that there's a wide breadth of programming, that even if something doesn't particularly catch me, like Chillerama was not a movie I was a fan of overall, but Barry will attest to the fact that I was cackling like a crazy person during The Diary of Anne Frankenstein. And then there were other movies that, some of them, I discovered that what was it, the kidnapping movie in the second movie, I forget what was it just called, Kidnap?
It's called Kidnapped, yes.
Yeah, like I discovered that's my personal kryptonite when it comes to horror movies. I was so bleeping tense during that movie. And then we've seen other movies, like Rambach is one that is just this undiscovered treasure that is essentially, I called it Rear Window meets Dawn of the Dead, like the remake. And it's a brisk hour long, and then it's in, it's out. It tells an incredibly compelling storyline, all in German, that's tense the whole way through, and has this really beautiful, sweet, odd love story in it. Like, Barry, what are there other ones that you really enjoyed going back through past years?
I would have to go look at that original program, which I still have. But yeah, Rombach is huge because there obviously have been titles that fans like ourselves who've been and the fans who've been going year after year after year, they go there for the particular title. But just to be a horror fan and go there and discover, I mean, Rombach again, folks. I mean, this is a German zombie movie. That it's very short. We did not know what to expect. We just said, okay, let's see what this is. And we walk out like, wow, we have seen the light. There's hope for the horror genre. There's hope for the zombie genre, which I've kind of given up on prior to that. It's just a great place to discover these films. I mean, I love that you're still doing the short film Q&A and not only obviously the titles that people have heard. I've heard of Alone. I did hear about Fried Barry. Any movie with my name in it, I tend to zero in on, which is great because, I most of my life I've been called Barry Lyndon or Barry White or Barry Manilow. So now I got to deal with a year of being called Fried Barry. That's fine. I've been called worse. But anyway, I digress. I love just the sense of discovery that this festival continues to encourage. That is huge. So fantastic. Because those are the ones that stay with you. And those are the ones, that's how cult films happen. And you leave and you're just like, it's like, have you seen this? You have to see this movie. And it tends to happen because of festivals like this one.
Absolutely. And you bring up the shorts. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Barry. There was a short we watched about a guy who was like this poor schlub who was an assistant for a vampire.
Yes, that was brilliant. I remember that.
The vampire was a complete tool, and we talked it up during the podcast. And then the filmmaker's like, "Oh yeah, that's because I was that was based on my year being an assistant for X famous actor." And I was like, "Oh my!" That just added so much more context, and like having those kind of discoveries are things that that keep us wanting to come back and like jumping at the chance to talk to you a little bit, Tim.
Oh, well, we really appreciate your support. Yeah, you guys have been with us since the beginning.
Yeah.
Way back in the day there. Yeah, at the Tivoli. I think that film was The Familiar.
Yes.
I believe. I think it won either Best Short Film or Audience Award for Best Short Film that year. But yeah, it was very well received.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun to see that wide breadth. That's the only way I can put it. Like there's some genuine schlock and shock and blood and guts and everything you want if you want it. If you want something that's a lot more cerebral, it's all there. Like it's something I love. Like it allows me to expand my horizons, and if it doesn't connect with me, that's fine. The next thing may just completely knock it out of the park. Like The Familiar, I was not expecting. I think you were just like, hey, you guys should go check out this shorts block. And so we went in, and I walked out with my jaw on the ground from just how great it was.
Yeah, that film. I think that was the year of the vampires too. Like there were so many films about. I mean, that was obviously one of the better ones, but there seem to be these themes that go on from year to year that I find very interesting. That year, I think vampires were sort of bigger, and this year, actually, some vampires in possession have come back a little bit, at least with what I've seen. Not with everything. We're showing all types, all subgenres, and all types of different horror films, but I find the trends very interesting.
Yeah, I think that was the same year The Revenant came out. Like not the vampire movie, not the Oscar bait movie. But I think you bring up the guests who are going to be there. I remember meeting Jeff Reddick, and he just could not be a sweeter guy to talk to. And pretty much like that's something I've really appreciated is that this is not paid or anything, folks. We're reaching out because we love these folks. But there's this feel about kind of family behind the festival in general. Like whether you're meeting guests or you're meeting filmmakers. I remember we interviewed a couple filmmakers that first year, and everyone was just thrilled to be there and be talking movies, and just kind of like these filmmakers are happy that someone liked what they made, and we're happy to meet these people who made these movies that we really enjoyed. And I'm really glad that you guys are coming back. I was like, oh, they're great, it's coming back. And then Auntie Rona came to town, and I'm like, friggin' really, guys? Really?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it really is horror family. When I started this in 2010, I didn't understand the full extent to which horror fans in general, I'm just lumping everybody into one. Everybody's different, of course, but I was pleasantly surprised how many horror fans are just the nicest people in the world. They really, really are. And it is like a family. And it's like, we want to build that at the festival community, because it's something that it's fun to share a film with other people and it's just some of the horror fans are the nicest people in the world. And maybe some of them that are a bit more eccentric or love to wear black or have tattoos all over, it's the nicest people in the world. I love horror fans of all types.
Absolutely. It is like the ultimate, it's almost like the punk scene back in like the 80s and 90s. Like, hey, if you're here, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're here, it's all good. We're all in this thing together. We all like the same thing. Even if we like different parts of it, we have an appreciation for the thing in general. So yeah, that's
for
sure.
And with film festivals, and with our film festival, independent films, we mostly play independent films, and there is such a life for them out there. A lot of people haven't seen these movies. They are, in my opinion, some of the best genre films out there are independent because they don't have to follow the same rules that the larger Hollywood ones have to. They want to sell. They have a formula to sell. They know how to sell. They know their demographic. The independent ones can be a bit more out of the box. I'm not excluding all mainstream films or poo-pooing anybody's films. I'm just saying in general, there are some of the best films I've seen are independent. And so, and foreign, there are a lot of really excellent foreign films that people just don't see because they're subtitled, or, Parasite broke out of the box, but a lot of them people don't see outside of the festival circuit. So I find it's just very fulfilling to find those gems, the horror gems, and to give a voice to them.
Absolutely. So we might as well we've been talking up this festival. It's coming up. Why don't you let us know where folks can register for it, where we can buy passes, all that fun stuff, and how things are going to kind of run this year?
Sure. So the Mile High Horror Film Festival, you can find everything at our website at mhhff.com, or you can just Google Mile High Horror Film Festival, and you can find the program there. We have screen passes, which are the equivalent of an all-access pass for $75. So you can see everything. We've extended the festival actually to 10 days because, we don't expect, if you're not in a movie theater, we don't expect everyone to be able to just binge watch films the whole weekend. So we extended it to 10 days, and you can watch most of the films at your convenience. So the Q&As, some of the Q&As are live, so those will be scheduled, but then they turn into videos after that, so you can watch them. Even if you can't join us live, you can still watch them. And we tried to make it very, very affordable for people streaming, especially in these times. So our passes, we cut the prices way down and tickets way down, and we just want people to give people something new to enjoy, because I think a lot of us are really starving for new content.
Well, and what something I really like is I'm guessing this probably expands the breadth of people who can actually attend, as opposed to having to make the trek to Denver. Like, is this just a nationwide thing, or is it geo-locked at all?
It's geo-locked to the United States.
Okay.
And that's, I guess, if there's any sort of positive thing from the festival perspective, from our perspective, is that we can have a larger capacity than we could have. So we're not, because rather than selling out a theater that holds 200 something seats, you can open it up to more. But there's some features that we still have to limit the capacity, because the distributors or the filmmakers might not want it getting out there too much. It's more of a promotional thing to help the film. But the capacity is much larger, and we are able to reach everybody in the United States. So that's pretty exciting.
Very cool. So who are you using for the back end, if you can talk about that? Just, I'm a nerd, so I like to know that kind of stuff.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, it's so we're using Eventive. It's eventive.org, I believe. Could be .com. I don't know, but Eventive. If you Google Eventive, it's one of the more widely used platforms right now for film festivals, and it's very interesting what has happened. I looked at quite a few of these platforms before deciding which one to go with. And there are two or three that, to me, that stick out as being pretty solid, that some of the festivals we respect are using. Eventive is one of them. It integrates chat into it. So if we do a live Q&A, there's a chat room. Of course, the Q&As are integrated into it as well. And it just has just seems pretty user-friendly and safe. The most important thing, I guess, is that it's from the perspective of the filmmaker or the distributor who's having their film in a virtual festival, they want their film to be secure so that it doesn't get pirated or anything like that. So they're very, very secure, and a lot of reputable distributors use them. And I guess that's probably the big thing from our perspective, because we don't want, to get out there. You can even geolock to the state of Colorado, or, wherever you want, really.
Yeah, we had Keith Garcia on from the Denver Film Society, and he was talking about how they're using Eventive as well. And that's a big thing for me. Like, personally, I love that you're using Eventive because it's a lot more widely available. Like, I don't have to sit on my PC and watch the movie on my screen. I can run it through my Roku or my Xbox or whatever, and then run it through my home theater system on my, my plasma, so it looks all nice and pretty, and I can get the closest to that theatrical experience that I can.
Yeah, that's another thing that was really appealing for someone watching. You can cast it from your phone or your computer to your television or Roku or Android TV. So it's Apple TV as well, I believe. So, it seems like one of the most user-friendly from both our perspective and the consumer, the person, the fan watching the movie. You can still watch it on the television just like you would. So it's pretty exciting. It's funny, when I started this festival in 2010, it was all DVDs, and everything. Technology has changed so much. It's crazy. We were watching all these submissions on DVDs, and so we have to give it to another judge. I have to drive across the city to give someone a DVD, and it's just, technology has changed so much with the ability to just stream everything.
Cool.
I sound like an old man, but
back in my day, we had used the DVDs, and we could check out 4 at a time, and that was it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The advent of like Vimeo and digital screeners has been a lifesaver for wanting to catch up on stuff before a festival. Oh my goodness. Barry, is there anything you want to chime in with before we wrap this guy up?
No, and I should say, for those watching this who are interested, I had a moment where you were talking about the festival, and I just pulled up my phone off camera, and I was looking at the list of films as well as guests you've had to the festival, and it's just a gallery's rogue of some of the greatest horror artists and filmmakers and actors. Some of these movies, I can't wait to revisit them. Thank you for mentioning The Familiar. I haven't seen it since I saw it 10 years ago. God bless the Mile High Horror Festival. I love it. It's 10 years. It's still going strong, still keeping it going. And hopefully things will be more normal-ish a year from now, so that, you won't have to deal with the nonsense of having to, adapt to this crazy Corona world we live in. But I love that it's still going. I love what you do. And I'm so excited that it's still with us.
Thank you so much. And we love you guys, and I love your podcast, and I love what you guys are doing. You guys have been huge supporters for us, and so thank you so much for having me on and for your support.
Absolutely, of course, yeah. So again, if anyone needs more information, go to mhhff.com and pick up a Screen Pass. I'm probably going to do so after we finish this episode, because I have to catch up. I mean, it's the first year back. How do I not attend? But thank you so much, Tim, for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us tonight.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Dave and Barry. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you virtually, and I can't wait to the time when we can see each other together in a theater as well. So
yes,
thank you so much.
Yeah, so we'll wrap that up. I think next week we're going to do Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, kind of get a little bit of light and a little bit of dark and just have some fun going around. But until then, so we will be back next week. Until then, this is Dave.
This is Barry.
Take it easy.